Could
Yeah.
you give us an example
Mm-hmm.
that is relatable
Yeah.
to how some kind of trauma
Mm-hmm.
that a lot of people may have experienced in
Mm-hmm.
their childhood,
Yep.
might not even consider it to be trauma?
Yeah.
Can you give us an example of how that can create an addiction to drama as an adult?
Yeah, absolutely. So most of us have some sense in our life of not being seen and heard.
Mm-hmm.
That's a kind of a very familiar wound for many of us. And so, especially as young kids, what do? We don't have very many options. So we disconnect. We disconnect from the feeling. We focus on something else. And it's a suppression, repression of it.
I think I have an example,
Yeah.
and it's one I did to my kids.
Okay. Tell me.
So when our kids were in middle school,
Yeah.
I was starting to travel a lot, and my husband was the stay-at-home dad.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that our daughters in particular say that we did terribly as parents is that my husband, because of how he was raised,
Mm-hmm.
would always say to them, try to get a ride home.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
meanwhile, I'm off traveling. I have no idea this is happening.
Yeah.
I did not grow up in a family
Yeah.
where anybody ever said, try to get a ride home.
Yeah.
I lived close enough to the school I could walk home if worse came to worse, but our kids could not walk home from where they were.
Yeah.
And so Chris, because of his frickin' childhood, where
Yeah.
nobody picked him up,
Yeah.
was constantly telling our middle school daughters, see if you can't get a ride home.
Yeah.
And so they would be feeling at the end of a soccer match the panic
Yeah.
that they're responsible for bumming a ride home with somebody.
Yeah. Or
Fast-
abandoned.
Or abandoned. All of it.
Oh.
And fast forward now,
Yeah.
I realize
Yeah.
that there is a lot of drama in our family
Mm.
around getting out of the house
Yeah.
because it becomes this like experience in our family
Yeah. Yeah.
because they have this unresolved issue
Yeah. Yep.
of feeling abandoned. And then it's getting triggered when we as a family are trying to go somewhere and they're starting to feel like nobody's going to be there on time. We're not going to be there on time. This is a very familiar experience. And that starts, is this an example of it?
Yeah. It's a beautiful example of the disproportionate response to a very basic stimulus.
Yes.
It's like blowing out a candle with a fire hose. It doesn't make sense. It's like, oh, it's sprinkling outside. We better go into the bomb shelter. It's like, we're going to leave the house. Come on, Mel, we got to go. We're going to be late. Everyone's going to hate us.
You're 1,000% in our kitchen right now.
I
The blowing out a candle with a fire hose.
Yeah.
Let's just pause on that phrase.
Sure.
Because I think we all know a number of people in our lives.
Yeah.
That blow the candle out with a fire hose, that they get triggered and they completely tantrum.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what is it like and how can you, in a healthy way,
Yeah.
be in a relationship with somebody
Yeah.
who is addicted to drama.
Yeah. Because most of us know someone who is addicted to drama.
Yeah.
It's important to recognize that a stress response, so someone who's in a chronic stress response, like happens in addiction to drama, is that it's contagious. And so let's say I was pretty nervous when I saw you today. I still am a little nervous.
You are?
Yes. Oh my God,
Why?
Mel. I don't know.
You're great.
You're great. And
Thank
it's
you.
intimidating.
Oh, please.
And someone in this room, or even you, might start to pick it up on a level you wouldn't recognize.
Okay.
Yeah, so subconsciously.
Yep.
Your physiology is responding to my physiology. That's evolutionarily designed. You know, I'm running into the house or into the studio because I just got chased by a snake. And you don't even have to know what's chasing me. Your physiology is going to mirror mine in preparation to be responsive.
I would imagine this is even faster and more addictive in a family.
Yes, because you register the cues quicker.
I was shopping with our daughter this weekend,
Mm-hmm.
and it happened to us.
Yeah?
Yeah. She's stressed about, life after college.
Yeah.
And so she's already baseline. You can tell starting to rev herself up,
Yeah.
to use the language of drama. We are out shopping, and she comes out of this dressing room, and she's got on a pair of motorcycle boots. And she's like, "What do you think?" And I said, "Those look just like the ones that I bought you 5 years ago." And she goes, "Well, I don't have those anymore." And the energy shifts,
Yeah.
and I immediately feel the drama.
Yep.
And she then spins on her heels and stomps back into the thing. And then I feel myself rev up because
Yeah.
I'm thinking, is she pissed at me because I'm not buying her a pair of boots? Like,
Yeah.
and now I'm tense.
Yeah.
And it escalated from there.
Yeah.
And I'm
Absolutely.
realizing that the dynamic that you've described of somebody having that flood of emotion
Mm-hmm.
and then blowing out the candle with a fire hose and
Mm-hmm.
stomping into a dressing room,
Mm-hmm.
she's feeling something deep in the moment, which is painful, which is, I don't know what I'm doing with my life, and
Yeah.
I'm afraid I'm not going to figure it out.
Yeah.
And these surface level fights
Yep.
are her seeking that connection with me.
Yeah. She might not be able to be in contact with it.
It's too painful.
It's too painful. So what do? We distract ourselves from that pain by creating more sensation.
Well, so how do you deal with somebody who's
Yeah.
constantly like this?
Yeah. So for one, recognize what's happening in your own body.
Okay.
So the fact that you had that experience with your daughter, you started getting revved up from her revving.
Yes.
So you got to find your anchor, find your ground, shake it off.
Oh my God. And then you don't want to know what I did?
What'd you do?
Oh my God. I texted somebody while she was in the dressing room.
Yeah.
That's like, I don't remember what I was responding to a text. And I'm like, and I'm really like just deep breathing and using the let them theory because Kendall is in a mood. And then all of a sudden, Kendall responds back because she was in the group
shit,
chat
no.
and just said, "You know, I'm in this group chat with you and Lynn." And then I wrote back, "Touche. And you are in a mood. What do you need?"
And did that work?
You know, we stayed in the drama cycle
Yeah.
kind of for the rest of the day.
Yeah. It does.
And then the next morning,
Yeah.
I texted her and said, "I'm out here for 2 days. I really want to have today go well.
Yeah.
What do you need from me?" And she said, "Well, why don't we talk?" And then we get in the car, and in the safety of the car, there's something about, I think, talking to somebody when you're side by side
Yes.
versus looking them in the eye. She just burst into tears.
Mm.
And she's like, "You think I have it all figured out? I don't. Like, I'm afraid I'm not going to make it. I don't know what to do. I don't even know why I'm out here. I don't know how to get into like," and it all came pouring out. And all I did was, and then I just apologized. And I said, "I'm really sorry. You're right.
Yeah.
I look at you and see an accomplished, put together, confident young woman who is doing the work. I don't ask you if you're okay because I assume you are, and I'm sorry."
Wow.
It was a deep level of fear and pain
Yeah.
that a lot of us experience when we're going through a major life change, which she is. Those first years out of college or out of high school or out of a relationship or out of a marriage are scary as you're finding your way. And I forget that.
Yeah.
And so I can see that in that example that I just lived in the last 48 hours, the drama escalated because she didn't know how to talk about the painful thing, which is, I'm lonely out here and I feel lost and I don't know if I'm going to make it in this big world as a singer-songwriter. And that's a lot. And so instead we started fighting about the motorcycle boots, and that led us to this existential, beautiful conversation.
It's such a prime example of how this little thing over here that's blown so out of proportion, that's so disproportionate to what's actually underneath the hood.
Yeah.
And if we can get underneath the hood, the drama often like settles, it metabolizes because
how do we
can
do
get
that, Doctor? Scott,
Yeah.
come on. No, seriously, because
Yeah.
I think, like, I see this everywhere.
Yeah.
I see the fact that when my parents came to visit me in
Yeah.
Vermont,
Yeah.
it's the first time they've visited us since we moved there 3 years ago.
Wow. Yeah.
And they came, it was a beautiful visit, but as soon as my parents were leaving, my mom started to go, well, I guess we'll do Thanksgiving in Florida, when the plan had been for all of us, an extended family, to come. And she started just saying it and saying it and saying it and saying it.
Yeah.
And the old me
Yeah.
would have gotten pissed off.
Mm.
I would have felt controlled.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I would have been angry about the campaigning to change a plan.
Yep.
And I would have felt offended when she said, well, you and your brother can get together. The fact that I'm going to Florida doesn't mean that, you can't do what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
All I've ever said is I want our family to do Thanksgiving together. And so, like, I see
She
you
created a bind in that moment.
Yeah.
Oh.
And so here's the thing, though. When I really unhooked myself,
Yeah.
and I went under the hood, here's what I thought. When was the last time that we were all together?
Mm-hmm.
When was the last time we actually did all travel to them?
Mm.
And it was quite a while ago. And so when I didn't get into the drama cycle and I just took a deep breath and I was like, well, what's actually going on under here?
That's exactly the question that needs to be asked, Mel.
Okay, so that's the technique. If you're dealing with the friend that texts you, I see you're in town. Oh, now it's too late. We're not getting together. Or the fight about shopping, or the
Yeah, part of it is we can use like functional reframes. So we go, what do we imagine the story underneath their story, the feelings underneath their story? What is the unspoken needs that are actually present? And that takes a fair amount of empathy, but it's a skill set for ourselves too. It's like, so we don't get involved in their drama cycle.
Okay.
That's part of a boundary.
Okay.
So, again, recognizing what's happening in your own body, settling yourself. Do not attempt to take them off the rolling hill.
Okay.
That is never going to work. It's like, hey, what's going on with you?
Yes.
That just is a fucking log on their fire.
Yes.
You are squeezing.
So do you just
Yeah.
like quietly put your hand on your heart and take a breath and like literally go, let them spiral, let them blow the candle out with the fire hose?
Yep. Sometimes you have to let them run their cycle.
Okay.
So that you can then enter in. And usually the cycle ends with a collapse in the drama cycle.
Well, a lot of times what I saw from the listeners that wrote in is that there's the eruption.
Yeah.
And then there's the silent treatment. Because the person doesn't know or doesn't want to or isn't emotionally mature enough to repair the situation. So what do you do when you get the eruption and then the ice silent treatment or the pretending like nothing ever even happened?
Yeah.
How do you handle that?
Go talk to a friend, a therapist to validate your experience.
Okay.
Don't rely on their sense of reality to match yours. The more you try to put that pressure on yourself or them to have that mutual reality, the more challenging you will find it to be in your own sense of peace.
You and I are digging into the fascinating science, research, and psychology of drama.
Do you use language like extremely, literally, always, very, really, never? Do you feel anxious or bored when things are calm? Do you end up gossiping and stirring things up?